Heyo review family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, the review guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I'm going to be covering the album Skotia by Devoured TX. And a bit of a side note, I am still sick, so apologies for that. So if you haven't heard of this band or album, I don't blame you, because from time to time, I like to kind of seek out some more underground artists that I believe are making some really good music. Ones this year that came to mind would be bands like Vane with their album Arizone, bands like Hedninger with their album Ragnarok, or bands like Poem. I really like to kind of seek out bands that deserve more exposure that are making good music, because on surface level, yeah, you will find a lot of good music, but at the same time in the underground you can find some really awesome projects as well. So Devoured TX, I'm not sure if it's meant to stand for Texas or if it's TX, but I'll just say TX for consistency. This is their debut album, and it was released not too long ago. I believe it was released sometime in September, and it's been getting a little bit of notoriety in the metal underground, because if you don't remember, if you maybe weren't around on the channel for a while, months and months and months ago, I made a video about, is like Deathcore dying? Is Deathcore dead? And it's because there's less bands putting out that original Deathcore veneer, and this album really was a refresher because it did have that kind of original Deathcore feel, and I love that to death because I'm a big fan of Deathcore, especially early Deathcore, and there's a lot of trace elements of some of those classic bands and some modern bands on this album that are definitive influences, but this album really does stand alone on its own for having a lot of different facets to the sound that they're going for, where you have Deathcore predominantly, but you also have kind of brutal Deathcore mixed in, you have technical Deathcore mixed in, you have some Djent even. There's some moments where the riffing can seem a bit like a Djent band, and I don't mean to like say they're Djent, obviously not, but there's like, I like that this band is putting in a lot of different genres into their one sound, because I think it really makes it unique. It makes it not just meat and potatoes, and I can respect them a lot for that. Right off the bat, it's 26 minutes in length, 6 tracks, and I love that, because one thing about my Deathcore is kind of something I've noticed is most of the time I like Deathcore that doesn't overstay its welcome. To put in perspective, Eclipse by Veil of Maya is my favorite Deathcore album. That should tell you something. And while I can like some longer ones, hence like Impending Doom's album that they released this year, I'd much prefer Deathcore to kind of be shorter albums, less songs, straight to the point, doing whatever they want to do, and Devoured TX does that. Probably the thing that shocked me the most on this album was the production. The sound engineering is really flawless on this album, and I'm not 100% sure what label this band is signed under, if any, because I searched some stuff about them, but I couldn't find any label that they were signed to. So if this is independently released, or if it's to a kind of independent label, I have to say, good job, because the sound mixing on this album is done to a really great effect. There was no point on this album where I felt like it was disjointed, where I thought anything was muddy. Everything was very prominent in the mix, and I applaud that. Going back to the whole influence thing, I get a lot of shots of Suicide Silence and Carnifex in this band's sound, especially some of those lower, groovier, down-tuned riffs and breakdowns that they employ on this album. They remind me a lot of some of the earlier Suicide Silence songs. I'm talking songs like Disengage, You Only Live Once, songs like that. I think that the Suicide Silence influence might not have been like something in their mind, but for me it stood out, as well as the Carnifex influences, where you have the vocals be a little bit more brutal, a little bit more heavy, a little bit more just kind of angry, aggressive. And with an album like this, with a genre like this, that is something that always happens. But I feel like Carnifex probably was an influence for the vocals, because the vocals really do like remind me of Carnifex. And I don't know if it was intentional. I don't know if any of the influences that I got on this album were intentional, but they were there, and it was an addition. It wasn't a subtractor. I've been searching for some good Deathcore for a while this year, and there's been a couple releases that I've genuinely enjoyed, like the album that Chelsea Grin dropped, Impending Doom dropped, stuff like that. But for an independent release that I just stumbled on, this really is a diamond in the rough. And if you are a fan of deathcore, if you are a fan of deathcore that is merged with some other things, such as some death metal influences, some Djent influences like progressive deathcore, and just overall brutal deathcore, I think you will definitely enjoy this album, because I did. And I don't regret listening to it at all. I think it came out great. I think that the sound engineering is probably the thing that shocked me the most, but the instrumentation and the vocals for a independent band and for a debut release is really amazing. And I am excited to follow this band. I'm going to be following them on Facebook and stuff. You can go check them out on there and stuff, because I'm excited for future releases from them. I would definitely cover them, because I'm always interested in new projects. I'm always interested in bands that are trying to break the mold and trying their best to rise up to prominence, and I highly suggest you guys check this band out if you are interested in what I have talked about this video. So please let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm going to be giving this album an 8 out of 10. I think that while it is a bit meat and potatoes at times, I think that the influences and the experimentation really does bring up this album. So you can let me know what you thought below. I will shout your channel out if you like and comment. Please subscribe, it helps me out a lot, and I'll talk to you guys next time. But until then, my name is Djent, Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.